All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome on back. Continuing along our week and closing it out, rather. Friday morning here, August 14th, shortly after 9 a.m. Eastern Time. If you're expecting to see Fausto's face and expecting to hear him, I still apologize for all of us streaming across social media. For anybody new to the CTU streams here, my name is Josh Levitan. I'm Fausto's senior instructor here. Of course, for all of us inside the trading room, you guys know me. Let's get a quick sound check just to begin. Make sure everyone can hear me loud and clear. Oof, this Boxel trade's making a nice pop going into this market open. Great to see all of us live inside our trading room here. Cliff, Norman, Wayne, Daniel, Pat, Jeff, great to see you all. And like I said, all of us tuning in on social media, guys. So without further ado, let's hop right into it. We'll talk about this Boxel trade first. There's a lot to get into here this morning. But from here, what we'll do is go through some of the stocks that we ended up trading from yesterday. And then from there, we'll scan the percent gainers and losers list as we always look to do. So with that in mind, guys, Boxel, we had this on our morning watch list. I think it was Wednesday. News came out at the time. I think even this morning, as I'm looking on Benzinga Pro right now, actually more news which led to this pop. I had this on our pre-market watch list simply for the reason that this was up 7%. Normally for a stock that makes one big move up, one day of the week, it'll end up pulling back a bit, but it's not surprising to see it make a second new move later on. So naturally, for that reason, I had this on our watch list. But with that in mind, I just looked on Benzinga Pro right now. I didn't realize this. BOXL, better than expected Q2 EPS. Just going to post the news right here in the chat board. Wow, I didn't even have them on the earnings calendar I have here going into this week. So, right now we ended up seeing this make a breakout from 220 up towards high of the day, 255. I would say, if anything, there was a big level back from Wednesday's trading that we had our eyes on, and I had called it out going into this morning. It was right off $2.40. It was holding underneath that level fairly well early in the pre-market, but it's all based on volume. We ended up seeing back on Wednesday, I think it was like a 150 some odd thousand share order. Give me a quick moment here, folks. I might need to jump back here on the charts, but we ended up seeing a massive support, strong support, likely to create strong resistance, and vice versa. So this is pulling back down now. I had wrote this just a moment ago inside our trading room. If you guys happen to see this pull back down to 240 and it holds, that's a really good opportunity to see this potentially squeeze up much higher. So, right away, I'm going to put this BOXL stock on our morning watch list. Looking pretty good here at this point. All right. So with that in mind, guys, what we'll do is just recap a couple stocks that we had from yesterday. A couple decent ones, a couple duds actually. I want to go through some that actually, looked good early in pre-market, but ended up tailing off shortly after the open and never really ended up setting a great opportunity for us to buy. So we'll go through it all. To begin, though, I'd be remiss to not bring up HX to start. I had HX also on a pre-market watch list. I'll get to that in a second. But from yesterday, we ended up seeing this trade just like explode, and not even from the afternoon. This got halted a couple of times early in the morning. Ended up seeing this stock pop shortly after the market opened up from 80 cents all the way up to an eventual high of the day, 114. You can see the gap here on the chart. Anytime you see this gap on my screen here, guys, the stock got halted. I find that important because, well, that's one halt. Later on throughout the day, we ended up seeing this stock get halted like 5 or 6 times over heading into the afternoon. There's another one from 316 heading into 321. I thought it was this one at least. If it wasn't this one, then it was the other one that we're going to go over, MBOT. I think that was the one I was going to refer to. But either way, this HX just exploded once again going into the afternoon. Held off $1 support, ended up moving up to break a new high later on, moved up sharply towards an eventual new high, 178. And, going into this afternoon, of course, ended up making a final push heading into the close. This is exactly where we would want to see this stock going into this afternoon. Anytime you happen to see a stock right near or at the highs of the day, it's not to, guarantee it's going to, move higher into the close and you look to hold the position into the afternoon. But it's more often than not, you would hope for that to happen. You still watch level 3, still watch time and sales. Fortunately for us here on this trade, although it had, a couple of nasty shakes first, ended up pushing up higher and higher going into the close. Unfortunately, though, what makes the top percent gainers list one day ends up making the percent losers list the next. I don't know if there's any other news on this HX stock. I didn't care to look just yet, but that's something also that's not surprising. That's something that we see fairly often here. So HX down 44%, and for that reason alone, I had this on our pre-market watch list in hopes of a potential bounce and move back up. So actually, I had give me a quick sec here, folks. For all of us here in the trading room, I know that you guys could see my screen. I see one of us here, Charles. Charles, do me a favor. You need to click the screen sharing tab. Right now, if you happen to see the market meeting logo, you need to click the screen sharing tab, right? Should be good. All right, so HX, guys, I had this on our pre-market watch list. I was hopeful for a move back up. At the time here, I had said it was over 150, needs to hold over 150. Otherwise, this is going to happen. So it ended up failing to hold 150. It broke under it. Well, it actually held 150, just not as support. Ended up holding it as resistance, and thereafter ended up kind of pulling back here a bit. So you know what? For right now, I'll tell you, I'm not going to put this on our list just yet going into this morning. If it ends up making some sort of funky pop as I go through the percent gainers and losers list, guys, just let me know. All right, another one that we were following, one that we did pretty well on. It was more of a bust going into the afternoon, and it was one that was more surprising to me. I took a couple of losses on this after we ended up doing well on the run up. The NTN trade. We ended up seeing NTN make a really sharp move, very similar to HX, shortly after the open. I'd said I'll get to MBOT. We'll get to that actually next there. But, NTN ended up making one of the biggest moves across the day, ended up running from 3 up towards essentially 4, broke higher from there up towards 5. I mean, this was trading the 50-cent levels and whole numbers extremely well. Don't base that also, by the way, guys, just on what you see here on the right-hand side, the price axis. It's not always the case that you're going to judge the increments in which the stock is trading based on these axis increments on the right. But ultimately, this stock was following the big volume-based support resistance levels on level 3, and those were off the 50-cent levels and whole numbers. But unfortunately, though, this ended up breaking its uptrend line very nicely, dropped off. And when I say unfortunately, I mean, well, this ended up just continuing to pull back. There were a couple of opportunities going into yesterday's afternoon meeting. We saw this hold off of 5, moving up really nicely. Unfortunately, I was doing the meeting and I wasn't there to take the trade myself. I took a small loss. It was off of 6. I jumped in for a little, gain off 550. So I ended up taking a couple of losses where you guys ended up cleaning up for me going into the afternoon meeting yesterday, but continued to dump off, right? So this NTN trade, even right now, this thing is just getting crushed all the way down to 337 here, down 20%. Very similar to HX. I'll tell you, I'm not going to put this on our list just yet. I would love to see this make a squeeze back up at some point, but just based on, given direction here, I'm not going to put my eggs in that basket just yet. All right, guys. I want to get to one more, the MBOT, like I'd said, the MBOT. Whoops, I typed that in the chat board. MBOT. This was the crazy one that ended up getting halted like 3 or 4 times over. We ended up seeing the stock yesterday. There we go. Oops. The MBOT yesterday, just low float, low volume, squeezed all the way up from 680 to an eventual high like 815. But again, very similar, just, an extremely low volume stock that usually leads to a very sharp volume drop off. And it's not to say the stock's going to go with it guaranteed, but when the volume dies off, 2 things happen. The stock consolidates, trades in a tighter range, or it ends up tanking. It ended up doing a little bit of both. Ended up consolidating, trading in a tighter range underneath $7.80 here. Ended up dropping off sharply thereafter and never really ended up setting up for a great opportunity going into the afternoon. Now, going into this morning, you guys could see it's still a little spotty, trading about 10,000 shares. It's kind of near that high right now. So for the meantime, I'm not going to put this on our list just yet. It's a little low volume. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if this one ends up making some sort of pop or drop or move, within the first 30 minutes, hour after the open. So maybe we'll keep this on the side. All right, guys. So in the chat board here, in the trading room, I see Mauricio saying MTP heading to 3, and I see Norman saying Mara, another stock that we were following in pre-market, dropping off here so far. So there's a lot that we need to get to, guys. What we'll do is really just go from top to bottom across the gainers and losers list. Any of the others that we ended up trading yesterday, we'll look to go over them really briefly. It's already 9:09 Eastern time. I want to make sure that we all have enough time to prep and get ready going into this Friday morning. All right, so TLC, Taiwan liposome comp. I don't know. This just screams low float pump and dump. Ended up making a huge pop, of course, as you guys could see. The news on this, I guess, following earlier press release highlighting submission of investigational new drug application for coronavirus infection. All right, so I guess that leads to a huge run, but of course we happen to see a big dump back down. Although it's kind of making a higher low, the spreads on this are going to be pretty wacky after the open. The order book is pretty light here, as you could see even right now. So even with this up like 93%, it looks like interesting. It looks pretty crazy. I'm not really jumpy to put this on our list just yet, guys. So, we'll come back to this. I want to build up our list first, then come back to this trade. Now, Mauricio did say MTP heading to 3. Not to say this isn't low float, low volume. This one's trading a hell of a lot more volume, though, compared to that. TLC is trading 7.5 million shares at this point in the morning. But more so than anything, look at level 3 on the right-hand side, guys. And, when Fausto shows the NASDAQ total view for all of us streaming on social media, keep in mind, the NASDAQ total view is going to essentially be the equivalent to this program here, the TradeStation Matrix. This is just built in from the platform that we're using here. That's all. That's the one of the few differences. But NASDAQ total view, if you do not have a program like, from TradeStation, the Matrix, NASDAQ total view is an absolute must. All right, guys, just so you guys know, in case if you're wondering why I'm not showing, the total view. But for the meantime here, MTP looking at the matrix, very tight spread. And if anything, very filled in order book, a lot of liquidity there. So, I love this trade going into this morning. And Mauricio pointed out it was making a move up to 3. I don't know what the news is on this stock. I'll care to look, I guess, for the meantime. All right, so MTP. Oh, that's right. I did copy and paste this just way earlier in the morning. So SEC relating to the permitted resale of up to 12 million shares. All right, well, either way, kind of similar pop and drop like that TLC, but like I had said, the spreads are way more contained. The liquidity is a lot more filled in on the book. 15,000 share order on the bid right over the VWAP at 281 right now. 17,800 share order on the ask sitting there at 3 as a resistance. So good call from Mauricio there. Yeah, easily. Just going to put this on our list for right now. Kind of like a no-brainer. All right, MESO. This was really active in pre-market early. Just a big jump up, gap up, I guess, and then pop from 1450-ish up to 20. Kind of coiling up right now. This stock kind of reminds me of like all of these other low float, huge runners that we've had in the past. Not to say the pump and dump, but I'm referring to the crazy ones that we've caught over the last like month and a half. For anyone new to CTU here, I'm referring to these. Look at the daily chart, if anything, not the 1 minute. Look at the right-hand side. EQ, huge pop from 8 to God knows what. WIMI, WIMI. And of course, a lot of these dump back down later on, if not the same day, then the following days thereafter. Carve, a little earlier than that, right? Like we've had a crazy summer thus far with all these huge gappers and runners. The MESO is included, but with this trade, if you look on the daily chart now, getting back to that, it's not just this move here in the pre-market. Something had to have happened back on Wednesday. We ended up seeing a huge gap down from 18 or 1750 all the way down to like sub 13, and then it tanked. I don't think that we were there to short it. It's hard to borrow. So I want to take a quick look at least from the Benzinga Pro on this. Oh, from the 11th. Okay, so let's see the 11th. All right, so this was the news from 6 in the morning back on Wednesday, or Tuesday, the 11th rather. I'm gonna just copy and paste once again here. I guess I'm the newsman this morning, but MESO ended up making a huge drop off from the news I copied and pasted in the chat board, and then of course today, a huge pop up. The news this morning, I guess in relation to what we had just posted, FDA or reports the FDA voted 9-1 in favor of their drug So that sounds like pretty good news. There's a lot more to it than that. Just I can't really pronounce a few of the things on that news report. Little bit of above my pay grade. All right. So MESO, either way, it's kind of coiling up. Just given the volatility, the range that this stock has made over the last 2, 3 days, it's going to be hard for me to not put this on our list. With that in mind, for any of our newly enrolled students, any of our trial members, of course, as well, keep in mind this is going to be a really volatile stock. Either way it breaks once the market opens up. We're hoping, of course, for a steady trend and a nice breakout later on. But with this up as much as it is, you might happen to get the dump off first. Be really careful on this stock, guys. Even if anything, as a newly enrolled student, as a trial member, I wouldn't want you to be trading a stock like this. I'd rather you be trading a stock like the MTP, which is already on our list. All right. So, in terms of volatility, we'll tend to, categorize stocks based off of such. So this MESO is more of like a level 4 to 5 stock, whereas MTP was like more of like a level, probably like more of like a level 2 to 3. All right. The train keeps moving, guys. What else do we have here? EBON, number 4, another crazy one. Ran early in the morning, a couple of gaps actually on the 1-minute chart, not off of halts, but ended up popping from like 4.50 or $5 all the way up to 7. Again, just given the range, I'll put this on our list. Looks pretty wacky for right now. Holding 6 support, I guess, and holding 650 as resistance, just leading into the market open. So, for right now, the charts aren't too difficult to read. Just the spreads are going to be pretty wide, though. All right, so let's kind of just skim through here, guys. See what else we have. It's 9:16 already. Damn. All right, KMDA, $10.16 or $10.86 stock, kind of just tight range. A lot of these stocks have the same characteristics where they're up big, news may have come out on them, but they're not always going to set up for a great buying opportunity. This TBLT I did put on the pre-market watch list for all of us here inside the trading room. After 7 o'clock, it made a nice pop. Figured why not? Just put it on our list. Ended up failing to break higher though, up towards the buck, dumping back down here. Ended up making a nice run going into the close yesterday or the after hours. So, you hope to see this make a nice push back up towards that 1 after the open. I don't mind putting this on our list. Bit of a cheapie. We normally don't tend to focus on the stocks below a buck, but this one has good activity so far. I want to jump back to BOXL quick. Look at that. Little shimmy under and over 240, but here we are. So that's pretty significant, guys, going into the open. That 240 held pretty nicely. ADMP. I was going to come to this. I skipped over it at first, but yeah, ADMP, familiar name. It looks like this dropped off back on Wednesday's trading as well. I don't know what happened, but obviously a new pop here. So ADMP, we're going to quickly put this on our list. Not really up. There we go. 120. Yep. 32,000 share order on the ask. 20,000 of those shares coming through the EdgeX on level 2. All right. I told you guys going into the after hours yesterday, AMAT Applied Materials ended up posting earnings, big pop and moving up nicely here. Listen, it's a little pricey. Me personally, I'm going to focus on the cheaper ones. That's just, my personal preferences. But for any one of us that tend to follow the more expensive stocks, this AMAT looks pretty interesting. The stock has usually had tight spreads and a more filled in order book, on a given day. So I'm somewhat familiar with this trade, but as it's moved so higher in price over the years, I've stopped trading it. I've seen it though in the past, and just tight spread, a lot of volume. It normally trades. So this one we'll put on our list here. I skipped over a couple. I just went from top to bottom, then from bottom to top. This RKT, wanted to jump to this. So I think more news came out, a correction on their Q2 EPS. Even I know this is a brand new IPO from like last week, but the news came out, I think, this morning in relation to RKT, some correction regarding some financial information coming out. So preliminary Q2 adjusted revenue, that's what it was. But ended up making a huge pop, ran up nicely, ended up consolidating around the 2025 level and around 20 major supports. So that's why I have the 2 lines there. I told you guys before, and it didn't happen just yet, so it goes to show how strong the 2025 is. But I would have thought with the lower high, it would have snapped under 25 and hit 20, the whole number, but hasn't done that yet. I mean, at least it hasn't hit 20. just given the volatility though and the volume, easily we're gonna put this near the top of our list going into the open. Not too expensive. The spreads will be a little open perhaps within the first 5 minutes, but we hope to see them contain shortly after. All right. Anything else, guys, on the gainers list? Up, down, left, right, or not down, but I guess anything up more than 5 or 10% here, looking good. And VAX pretty pricey as well. Moved up early in the pre-market. Oh, that's right, Mara. So Norman did say that Mara dropped off. Not to say it tanked, but Mara ended up moving back down a little bit. News came out with Riot and Mara back-to-back days, but we ended up seeing the Bitcoin stocks, the blockchain stocks for that matter, making a really nice rally going into the close. And then after, we ended up seeing Bitcoin make a nice move in the after hours. But I want to correct one of our students here really quickly, guys, just in the trading room, and for all of us streaming on social media really quickly. These stocks don't directly follow Bitcoin, not a direct follow. When Bitcoin makes a sharper move, we hope to see these stocks make a nice move with it. So, just given the activity, I don't mind at least putting Mara on our list leading into the market open. Riot's going to make a similar move, but over the last week and a half, we've seen Mara be a lot more volatile. So, I'll tell you, hey, if you follow one, follow the other. I'm just going to feature Mara for right now. And at the same time, guys, really quickly, I just got a couple of pings actually from Pat here in the trading room first, and then a few of us on YouTube afterwards. The Craig trade. Whoa, big pop. So great call, guys. That's why I asked that question. So during the meeting here, I just saw this make a huge pop from essentially 320 to 443. Damn. All right. So, guys, I don't have the time to copy and paste the news. We haven't even gotten to the losers list just yet. I want to jump to that, finish up. It's already 9:21 in the morning. So great call, guys. Given the range, I would easily just focus on 50-cent levels and whole numbers like 450 pre-market high, 4, I would assume, or 390, 390-ish even to hold as a nice support level, perhaps. And yeah, great call. All right, so let's hop over to the losers list, guys, and then if there's anything else, again, let me know. I'll hop back to the chat boards after. But HX we kind of covered already. Holy smokes, this thing's flying. Remember, guys, in pre-market trading, there's no volatility halts. News halts, but not volatility halts. BFRA, I mean, this thing's just been all over the place. What the hell happened here? And another one that ended up making, I guess, like a low float, huge run up from 10 to like over 50, ended up dumping back down the few days after. And, again, that's where I say for a lot of these stocks that make these, huge runs up, whether they dump completely back down or not, they're usually worth a second look, a few days later. Not to guarantee, but they're worth just looking early in the pre-market. From John in the trading room, and we were going to get to this. Mark, also coming off of earnings. Not one of our students, Mark. Mark is in the stock. Remark Holdings ended up dropping off here from like 165 down to 130. We can't short it, right? It's coming off of bad earnings, it seems like. So unless if you're expecting a full reversal from 130 breaking higher, I'm not going to put this on our list right now. I mean, it's very active, very tradable. I just don't know how much we're going to get on this trade. That's the issue. All right, 923. We got to finish up. All right, IQ coming off earnings. This thing, we had this on the pre-market watch list, ended up making a nice breakout going into 8 o'clock from 19 up to 20, but really has been in a tight range since. I know that the news came out with China retail sales down, and then the retail numbers here in the U.S. came out. We ended up seeing the SPY drop off really early in pre-market, but made a solid rebound for what it's worth. You know what? This IQ stock, it looks like it's doing nothing right now, right? But I'm going to put this on our list for the market open, right? So unfortunately, this was more of a dud here in the pre-market. But once the market opens, I'm expecting a lot better direction at the least, whether it's, a bit of a pop up or, a break under support for this to move a lot lower. All right, guys, time 9:24. Let's finish this up, really. Anything else? Looking good? I don't see much else on the loser side, at least. So that's where I asked that one last time. Just checking on my Benzinga Pro actually here first. And yep, got the ping for Craig, which I wasn't looking at my Benzinga Pro just before. Got really nothing else from Benzinga Pro as far as like a big breakout leading into the open. We got from RJF on YouTube. Take a look on this. What is this? ADTX. Nice pop. Don't get me wrong. Just unfortunately dumped back down. At this point, looking pretty weak here. All right, guys. I think we have a good list. You know what? Actually, pardon me before we go. Watch, we'll probably take this into 9:30. I just want to check out the airlines, the cruise lines. You know, for a Friday, I'm not expecting a whole lot. That's the rule of thumb. Not a whole lot happens on a Monday or a Friday, but you never know. I mean, for the meantime here, the SPY, as much as it kind of recovered off the dip early, you know, kind of flat, not doing a whole lot here. Airlines and cruise lines not really moving too well for right now. Check out Penn National Gaming breaking all-time highs yesterday once again. You know, be very active. Tradable stock will be one that I'll say if you made money on this week, definitely keep it in mind. But all right, guys, I think that we're pretty good. We have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. I didn't do too bad of a job. All right, so let me get to this. I'll post and tweet these out to you guys right now. That goes across the board for all of us here in the trading room and streaming across social media, Facebook Live and YouTube. Whew, I need to catch a water break first. All right, guys. So aside from that, if you guys would like to learn more about Cyber Trading University, CTU, first and foremost, make sure that you guys like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/cybertradingu. Aside from that, if you guys would also like to learn more otherwise, make sure that you guys call the phone number I'm going to type here in the chat board for all of us streaming on social media. That's 516-280-5350. All right, guys, I'll take us going into the open for all of us inside the trading room here. Talk to you soon.